All right, y'all, we back with another reaction right here on ABP Reactions, and this one is called How Derrick Groves Escaped Louisiana Jail and Banished for 5 months. Dang, let's get into it.
Yeah, we are inside the home where police found Derrick Groves holed up here, that convicted murderer who escaped from New Orleans prisons, that is. Look
Golly.
at how much damage there is to this home.
He was sleeping in that?
Everywhere I looked here, there is all these bubblegum wrappers and candy wrappers and all kinds of stuff. It's just weird. This one is called etouffee blunt trauma.
What?
Interesting what was going on here, but there is damage all over this home. But if you go downstairs, let me take a walk downstairs here, and this is where police found Groves hiding out.
No, it gotta look like that because police tore the house up. Like, I don't know. You know, police, when they raid your house, they unnecessarily tear everything up.
Here in a crawl space, I mean, this area is just a mess as well, but they found him in the crawl space right here. He was hiding out. I don't know how he managed to stay here because they threw those gas canisters in. This is one of those gas canisters, and we're even having trouble in here right now. This is 2 days later. We're still smelling that gas, and I had to step outside to clear my throat and stop coughing. But this house is a complete mess. The owner says he needs help getting it cleaned up. He hasn't heard from police about repairing all the damage to his home. I'm starting to feel that gas again, so.
Why this nigga got gum all over the house, bro? What is that about?
It's not that simple. But once again, this is where they knocked out that front window, knocked out that front door.
Damn, I tore that door down.
Over in the garage area.
Sheesh.
That ram came and knocked out the garage. Just a complete mess. The homeowner says.
Wait. Is that too much? They knocked out the front window, they knocked out the front door, and knocked out the garage? Why did they need to do all that?
Why him? Why him? He said if he had no luck, he'd have bad luck, or he'd have no luck. But anyway, this is the home.
Derrick Groves, a 28-year-old convicted double murderer who would remain free for nearly 5 months, moving like a ghost through the American South while authorities desperately hunted him. But this wasn't just a story about a daring escape. This was about a violent past catching up with the present, about systemic failures that made the impossible seem easy, and about how a man's desperation for freedom would ultimately be undone by the very relationships he thought would save him.
You know, that nigga 9-time Gucci gang. You know what I'm saying? Gang, you hear me?
To understand how Derrick Groves became one of Louisiana's most wanted fugitives, you have to go back to Mardi Gras Day in 2018. New Orleans was alive with celebration, the streets packed with revelers in colorful costumes, music pouring from every corner.
What the fuck? That's Vegas. I ain't New Orleans.
But in the lower 9th Ward, a neighborhood still bearing scars from Hurricane Katrina's devastation years earlier, a different kind of chaos was about to erupt. On St. Claude Avenue, a house party was in full swing when suddenly the crack of gunfire shattered the festive atmosphere. Witnesses would later describe seeing multiple gunmen opening fire with AK-47 style assault rifles, spraying bullets indiscriminately into the crowd of partygoers.
Damn.
When the smoke cleared and the screaming subsided,
wow,
2 young men lay dead. Jamar Robinson and Byron Jackson, both with their whole lives ahead of them, became statistics in a city already drowning in gun violence. 3 others were wounded, their bodies torn by high-velocity rounds that were never meant to miss. This wasn't a random act of violence or a robbery gone wrong. Investigators would later discover that this massacre was directly connected to the deadly heroin trade that had gripped New Orleans streets, a business dispute settled not in boardrooms but with automatic weapons and innocent blood. Derrick Groves wasn't unknown to law enforcement. His criminal record stretched back to 2014 when, at just 17 years old, he had been charged with attempted second-degree murder.
Damn.
That case ended with a not guilty verdict, giving the teenager a second chance that many in his position never received. But
wow,
whatever intervention might have redirected his path never came. Instead, Groves continued down a road that would lead him to that Mardi Gras massacre 4 years later.
Damn, so he beat a murder, and then 4 years later got caught for murder. Damn.
Standing among the shooters who decided that 2 lives were worth less than whatever drug territory or respect they thought they were protecting. The investigation into the Mardi Gras shooting moved quickly, but bringing the case to justice would prove to be anything but simple. Detectives with the New Orleans Police Department worked tirelessly, canvassing the neighborhood, interviewing witnesses who were understandably terrified of retaliation, and piecing together the events of that bloody day. The evidence pointed clearly to Derrick Groves and his co-defendant Kendall Barnes as 2 of the shooters who had unleashed that torrent of gunfire into the crowded party. By October 2019, prosecutors felt confident enough to bring the case to trial, presenting their evidence to a jury that would decide the fate of these young men. That first trial ended with convictions. The jury voted 10-2 to find both Groves and Barnes guilty of second-degree murder, and it seemed like justice had finally been served for Jamar Robinson and Byron Jackson. Their families could begin the impossible task of finding closure, knowing that the men who had stolen their loved ones would spend the rest of their lives behind bars. But our criminal justice system has layers of appeals and procedural safeguards, and those convictions wouldn't stand.
Wow.
The verdicts were overturned on appeal, sending the case back to square one and forcing prosecutors to start over.
Damn. What the hell? That's crazy.
Now imagine being the families of those victims, thinking you finally reached the end of this nightmare, only to be told you have to relive it all over again. The next attempt to retry the case resulted in mistrials.
Wow.
With juries unable to reach unanimous decisions. Each mistrial meant more delays, more uncertainty, more trauma for everyone involved. But prosecutors refused to give up.
I see why that nigga wanted to get out of jail. He like, shit, nigga, I done beat the case twice. Get me the fuck up out of here. I can see why the nigga wanted to escape. Y'all over here teasing a nigga. You know what I mean? Mistrial, overturn. He like, shit, he thinking he going home. He probably so fed up. He like, fuck it, I'll break out this bitch. And that's what he did.
In October 2024, they brought the case to trial yet again. And this time the outcome stuck. Derrick Groves was convicted on all counts. 2 counts of second-degree murder for Robinson and Jackson, and 2 counts of attempted second-degree murder for survivors. The mandatory sentence for these convictions was life in prison without the possibility of parole. At 28 years old, Groves was facing the reality that he would die behind bars. While he awaited formal sentencing, Groves was held at the Orleans Parish Justice Center, a facility that had been plagued by problems for years. Former inmates and watchdog groups had repeatedly raised concerns about deteriorating infrastructure, understaffing, and security vulnerabilities. But nobody could have predicted just how catastrophic those failures would become. Behind the scenes, Groves wasn't sitting idle accepting his fate. He was communicating with someone on the outside who had intimate knowledge of the jail's inner workings, someone who had once worked there herself. Her name was Dariana Burton, Groves' on-again, off-again girlfriend of 3 years. Burton had been employed by the sheriff's office from August 2022 until March 2023.
Well. He had a plug. He was nailing the plug. Yeah, baby. Tell me how this shit working here. Where can I get? Oh yeah, we gonna put it all together. We gonna put it together like weather, make it make sense. I could see. Listen, y'all, just going back here and now that he had 2 separate cases where it was mistrials and all that. Yeah. He probably like, nigga, shit, I'm about this bitch, nigga. You know how niggas are. They ready to claim I beat a body. He probably had that in his head. Nigga, I'm going home. I'm getting a date. Never got a date. You going back to trial, my boy? Back to trial again. Oh, motherfucker. Mistrial. Oh yeah, I'm getting up out of here. I'm getting a date. Watch. I'm getting a date. Then you go back again. Guilty. Life. Damn. Life? Oh, hell no. Nigga, like, what? How the fuck do I get out this motherfucker? And just so happened, he has the bitch he nailing. She knows how to get out. But what the fuck are you doing going to Atlanta? Like, why would you break out of jail as a black man and go to Atlanta where they know all the black people at? What are you doing, man?
Giving her a month of access to observe security protocols, shift changes, and the facility's physical layout. She was eventually fired for bringing contraband into jail, though remarkably she faced no criminal charges at that time. That decision not to prosecute would soon look like a massive mistake. Through SmartCon, an internet-based messaging and video call system that inmates could access via facility-issued iPads, Burton and Groves maintained constant communication.
Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. This the girlfriend, cuz? Okay. Oh, my God. I was not expecting her to look like that. I ain't gonna lie to you. What the fuck?
They exchanged messages and video calls, and investigators would later believe that these conversations involved planning something that seemed almost impossible, a mass escape from a modern detention facility. The early morning hours of May 16, 2025, were quiet at the Orleans Parish Justice Center. Most of the facility was asleep, and the skeleton crew of overnight guards was stretched thin across the massive complex. One guard in particular was taking a meal break, leaving an entire section of the jail temporarily unmonitored. This was the moment Derrick Groves and 9 other inmates had been waiting for. What happened next would expose security failures so egregious that they seemed almost deliberately orchestrated. The inmates first forced open a faulty cell door that should have been secure, but gave way with relative ease. Once out of their cell, they moved quickly to execute a plan that required both knowledge and preparation. They grabbed the toilet and sink unit in the cell and physically ripped it from the wall, exposing a rectangular hole behind it that was used for connecting pipes. This hole should have been completely secured with metal bars running both horizontally and vertically, creating an impenetrable barrier. But when the inmates examined it, they discovered something shocking. The horizontal bars that should have been in the top half of the opening were simply missing. Whether they had been removed previously, had rusted away and never been replaced, or had been deliberately cut is something that still raises questions today.
Yeah. Nigga, please. Somebody else was in on this shit. We ain't stupid. Somebody else was in on it. All of a sudden, something that could prevent people from breaking out and escaping bars, they're gone. Mysteriously gone, and we don't know why or how. Out of jail.
But here's where it gets even more disturbing. The inmates didn't just stumble upon this vulnerability by accident. A maintenance worker named Sterling Williams had allegedly cut off the water supply to that section, making it possible for the inmates to remove the toilet without flooding the area. Williams would later claim that an inmate had threatened to shank him, suggesting he helped under duress. But authorities weren't buying it. They arrested Williams and charged him with 10 counts of principal to simple escape and 1 count of malfeasance in office. His bond was set at a staggering $1.1 million, reflecting how seriously the court took his alleged role in this disaster. With the toilet removed and the hole exposed, all 10 inmates squeezed to the opening one by one. They then did something that showed just how confident they were in their plan. They carefully placed the toilet back on the wall, concealing the hole and buying themselves precious hours before anyone would notice they were gone. But they couldn't resist leaving their mark. Above the hole, they scrawled those taunting messages that would later infuriate authorities and the public alike. To ease the LOL, and we innocent weren't just graffiti. They were a middle finger to the entire system.
Nigga's
a
crazy.
declaration that the facility's security was a joke. Once outside the cell block, the escapees scaled a fence and crossed an interstate highway, scattering into the darkness like roaches when the lights come on.
Scale the fence. This should sound like it's easy to get up out of that jail.
It wasn't until Friday morning during the routine head count that guards finally realized what happened. By then, the inmates had a head start of several hours, enough time to get far away or find places to hide. For other jail employees were immediately suspended as the investigation began, suggesting that the security breakdown went far beyond just one maintenance worker and one absent guard. This was a systemic failure of epic proportions. The manhunt that followed was intense and immediate. Most of the 10 escapees were captured within days, picked up in the greater New Orleans area before they could get too far.
Nowhere to go.
But Derrick Groves seemed to vanish into thin air. Prosecutors had described him as one of the most dangerous inmates in the facility, and now he was loose somewhere in America with nothing to lose. Authorities offered a $50,000 reward for information leading to his arrest, and tips began flooding in from across the region. Social media exploded with alleged sightings, some credible and many completely false.
Hey, what's the point of escaping a jail if you ain't got nowhere to go? You know what I'm saying? Like, I get it. Oh, you just want to taste of freedom. All right, I hear that. But, well, if you a lifer, it's nothing to lose. If you got life, it's nothing to lose because, like, what's going to happen? They're going to catch me and put me back in jail for life. I'm already in here for life. So, fuck it. I might as well shoot my shot. I get that point. But one of the cases I heard that one of the guys that escaped only had like 5 months left in jail. Bro, you could have just set that out because you got caught a couple days later when you escaped and they're going to add on 5 years, 6 years or something to your shit now. You was almost out. Like, why leave?
Viral posts claim people had spotted Groves working as a cashier in various stores, supposedly disguised and hiding in plain sight. These rumors spread like wildfire, but none of them were ever confirmed by law enforcement. What we do know is that Groves made his way to Atlanta, Georgia, hundreds of miles from New Orleans. For nearly 5 months, he managed to stay hidden while living in the shadows of a major American city. Think about that for a moment. In our age of surveillance cameras, facial recognition technology, and digital footprints everywhere, this man stayed free for almost half a year. He obviously had help, and investigators were determined to find everyone who had aided him. Derrick Burton was arrested first on June 9, 2025, on Peter Street in New Orleans. The arrest affidavit revealed those SmartCon communications between her and Groves, and prosecutors charged her with conspiracy to commit simple escape. Her bond was set at $2.5 million.
2.5.
And she has remained in custody ever
Sheesh,
since.
2.5
But
million.
here's where the story takes an ironic twist that you just can't make up. The tip that finally led to Groves' capture in October came from a girlfriend, and social media immediately assumed it was Burton who had turned him in. The internet ran wild with theories about a scorned woman getting her revenge. Except there was one problem with that narrative. Burton had been locked up in jail for 4 months by the time Groves was captured. She couldn't have made that call to Crime Stoppers, even if she wanted to. The reality is that Groves apparently had another girlfriend in Atlanta, and after an argument between them, she decided his $50,000 bounty was worth more than whatever relationship they had.
Whoa.
That anonymous tip led U.S. Marshals and Atlanta police directly to a house near the corner of Campbellton Road and Honeysuckle Lane.
Wait, did she call? Is that what he's saying? Damn. His girlfriend called for the 50? Get this nigga up out of here. Hoe ass nigga. Give me that 50K. 50K. Hey, right now, ladies, all right, fellas, whoever. Fellas, you got a girl, broke out of jail 5 months. She's all over the news. Ladies, you got a man, broke out of jail 5 months. He's all over the news. You know what I mean? Everything's going cool. Ducked off at your crib. Whole nother state. And then this motherfucker want to get at you sideways. You know what I mean? Want to get at you sideways. All fully out of pocket. You know what I mean? Probably cheating on you or something. You done found out this motherfucker over here housed up in my shit cheating on me. Are you calling for the 50?
In southwest Atlanta. On the morning of October 8th, 2025, law enforcement surrounded the residence. What followed was a tense standoff that lasted nearly 3 hours. Groves wasn't going to make this easy. The Atlanta Police Department's SWAT team had to deploy gas into the house multiple times, trying to flush him out from wherever he was hiding. Officers searched room by room, but Groves had found the perfect hiding spot. Finally, a Clayton County Police K-9 unit was brought in, and the dog tracked him to a crawl space beneath the house. There, curled up in the darkness, was Derrick Groves. The 5-month run was over when authorities arrested Groves in that crawl space. They also discovered 15 pounds of marijuana.
Damn, my boy, what? 15 pounds? Oh, my nigga was out here getting to it. Oh, y'all thought he was just out on jail and just being a bum. Y'all thought he was being a brokey. My nigga got 15 pounds, nigga. He out here getting to the money. Oh, that's why he wanted to get out of jail. I gotta get back to it. He like, I gotta get back to the chili, nigga. I know I'm out here, nigga, I'm all over TV, I'm all over the news, but I don't give a fuck, nigga. I got them pounds for sale. Holla at me. Nigga, that nigga thirsty.
A pistol, and a rifle magazine in the house. It remains unclear whether Groves knew the homeowner or how long he had been staying at that location, but the presence of weapons and drugs suggested he may have been involved in illegal activities even while on the run. 2 days later, on October 10th, 2025, Groves appeared in magistrate court in Fulton County at 10 in the morning, wearing jail-issued clothing and flanked by guards. He stood before the judge for his extradition hearing. In a moment that surprised some observers, Groves waived his right to fight extradition, telling the judge he wanted to return from where he was from. By making this decision, he gave Louisiana authorities 15 business days to transport him back to face justice. Louisiana Attorney General Liz Murrill issued a strong statement following the hearing, saying she would ensure Groves was prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
Right.
She added that his escape represented a serious breach of public safety and a historic failure of custodial security, but that his capture brought long-awaited calm to the victims' families. Groves was quickly transported back to Louisiana, where he
So what happens now?
now faces not only the mandatory life sentence without parole for his double murder conviction, but also additional felony charges related to his escape from custody.
And so, do we have Derrick Groves? If you could come up, sir. I'm right here. Have a seat, if you don't mind. Good morning.
One or the green one?
So, sir, I'm Judge Wolf. This is your extradition. I want to go over your rights so you can decide whether you want to waive extradition or not. You're wanted out of the state of Louisiana for aggravated escape.
Hold on, that's what I was thinking, y'all. Hold on. I just realized something. I'm like, damn, my boy got to go back to jail. He was out here getting it. You know what I'm saying? Y'all notice what they said they found? They found guns. They found loaded this, loaded that, shell casings, all that. They found 15 pounds of marijuana, but they didn't find no money. Where is this nigga Chili? They done stole this man's chili, bro. They didn't even mention they found his money, bro. Cause it got to be some money in there too.
I'm going to explain to you first what happens if you decide to have an extradition hearing, then what will happen if you decide not to have one. So you have the right to an extradition hearing if you choose. You have the right to hire an attorney to prepare for and conduct that hearing. If that's your choice, I will postpone the hearing for a reasonable time, 60 to 90 days, for you to obtain counsel. The law does not give you the right to a public defender or appointed attorney for purposes of extradition. If you choose to have the hearing, I will reset your case 60 to 90 days to allow your attorney to prepare for the hearing. At the hearing, there'll be three issues. Are you the person named in the warrant? Did the governor of Louisiana sign the warrant? And what you're charged with in Louisiana.
That nigga had life already anyway.
I cannot consider your guilt, innocence, the merits of the case, or evidence connected with the underlying case. If after the hearing I determine that the requesting state, Louisiana, has met its burden of showing those three things, then they would have approximately 15 business days to pick you up. If they don't, then you'd be brought back before me and I would consider releasing you. If after the hearing I were to find that Louisiana failed to prove those three things, then you would be released. You also have the right to waive or not have that extradition hearing if you choose. If you waive your hearing, then Louisiana has approximately 15 business days from today to come get you. If they don't, then you'd be brought back before me and I would consider releasing you. However, you may be held up to 30 days before being released. Regardless whether you're released in Georgia, you are subject to arrest again at any time as long as this Louisiana warrant remains active.
Man.
So even if you are released, you may wish to consider returning to Louisiana to have the matter resolved. Also, the media is here. I want to let you know they filed the appropriate paperwork. It's called Rule 11, and that was signed by one of our judges, our chief judge, and so they are here as well. You also have the right to remain silent. So let me just ask though, do you have any questions about your extradition rights? No. And do you want to challenge extradition or do you want to return to Louisiana?
I want to return where I'm from.
You want to go back to Louisiana?
Yeah.
Okay. So I do find you freely, voluntarily, and knowingly are waiving your extradition rights. I'm going to sign the paperwork, and that's all we're going to do here today. Thank you, sir.
That nigga about to go back to jail with hella stories, nigga. He about to tell his homies hella stories in jail. Nigga, I was out here fucking bitches, nigga. I was out there, da-da-da-da-da.
Okay. And in terms of anybody who has an interest in the Groves matter, that's all we're going to do for today.
Sheriff Williams made it clear during press briefings that there would be a thorough investigation into everyone who helped Groves along the way, in whatever parish and whatever county that assistance came from. The ripple effects of this case continue to spread.
Why they keep using this picture right here?
9 people in total were charged in connection with the massive jailbreak, including Sterling Williams, the maintenance worker, and Dariana Burton. The Orleans Parish Justice Center has faced intense scrutiny over its security failures, with calls for complete overhauls of infrastructure, staffing, and oversight procedures. How does a modern detention facility allow 10 convicted criminals to simply walk out through a hole in the wall?
Yeah, that is crazy.
The answers point to years of neglect, inadequate funding, poor maintenance, and a culture where warning signs were repeatedly ignored until catastrophe struck. For the families of Jamar Robinson and Byron Jackson, this case has been an endless nightmare spanning over 7 years. They watched their loved ones murdered on what should have been a day of celebration. They endured multiple trials, mistrials, and appeals. They finally got a conviction in October 2024, only to learn 6 months later that the man responsible had escaped from jail and was roaming free. Now, with Groves back in custody and facing life imprisonment, perhaps they can finally begin to heal. But the scars left by this case run deep, not just for families, but for an entire community that watched their justice system fail at nearly every level. Derrick Groves sits in a Louisiana jail cell today. His brief taste of freedom now, just a memory. At 28 years old, he will spend the rest of his life behind bars.
I wonder what this nigga was doing while he was out. I wonder if they could get like a storyline from this nigga and somebody do a video on that. Like, what was you doing for 5 months as an escapee of a prison all over national TV? What was you doing for 5 months, bruh? Like, what was your life like? People will watch that shit. I would watch it. I would want to know what for 5 months, my face plastered all over national TV. This is a high profile situation. Everybody's talking about this shit. And you're like the last one left. So they keep talking about you. They're doing countdown how many days you've been out. They're doing, and you're just in Atlanta living life. What the fuck was you doing for 5 months? We got to figure that out.
Dying in prison for decisions he made on that violent Mardi Gras day in 2018. His escape and eventual capture exposed catastrophic failures in our correctional system and raised uncomfortable questions about how many other facilities are one maintenance worker and one missing guard away from similar disasters. So let me ask you this. What drives someone who's already facing life in prison to risk everything for a few months of freedom? Was it desperation, denial, or simply the human instinct to flee captivity at any cost? And what about the people who helped him, who threw away their own futures to give a convicted killer a head start? Were they motivated by love, money, fear, or something else entirely? Think about Dariana Burton, who used her insider knowledge to help...
Hold on. My nigga got to ride on a private jet?
Straight this escape. What possesses someone to betray their professional duty and endanger public safety for a romantic relationship? These are the questions that keep me up at night, and I want to hear what you think in the comment below.
All right, y'all. That's a crazy one, man. This is an interesting one because now they're talking about they're going to go back and track down everybody who helped them along the way, and they're going to get time. So imagine, like, shit, all the people who probably nervous right now. Because being out for 5 months, being escapee, coming from Louisiana to Atlanta, like, how the fuck did you even get here? You know what I'm saying? With your face being all over the fucking news and everywhere, like, you had to be in somebody's trunk and get driven back over there to Atlanta. Like, you know what I mean? And then you're 5 months, you're moving around the city, or where are you and what are you doing and how are you staying out the way for 5 months? And you got a haircut. Who cut your hair, brother? I saw that in the chat too. Where's your barber? Imagine what the barber feeling like right now. The nigga who cut his hair. Like, oh shit, god damn. They gonna come get the barber just for giving the nigga a haircut. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, let me know what y'all think about this one, man. What y'all think about that Louisiana prison? Do y'all think, you know, they were in on it? Even though we found out the janitor, do you think it was more people that was in on that? 10 people escaping a prison. 10 people. That's a lot of people. And it sounded like it was easy to do. Just go through the wall where the sink was and hop a gate. And the bars that was supposed to stop something wasn't there. It sounds like an inside job. And they got away. Let me know what y'all think about that, man. Was this an inside job? What y'all think about Derrick Groves, man? What should happen to him? Like, I mean, shit, he got life in prison. Like, do y'all think he's just going to go back and be cool? I think he's going to try to escape again, me personally. I think he's going to try it again. The question is, will they be ready this time? Will they be ready this time? Did they make any improvements since he last escaped? Because he said he wants to go back to where he came from. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Smash the like. I'm going to give y'all 2 seconds. And as always, get ready for the next reaction.